It was revealed by the Associated Press that 2 NFL teams remain under the 50% threshold for COVID-19 vaccinations. On the flip side, there are actually 13 teams with a vaccination rate of 85% or more. Washington and Indianapolis have the lowest vaccination rates, while Pittsburgh, Miami, Carolina, and Denver have the highest. On a related note, the NFL also told the AP they do not plan to cancel any games this year. So to me, taking that all into account, it seems that teams with few vaccinated players could really be at a disadvantage. So, Andrew, what do you think about this vaccination news? Any thoughts on potential negative consequences if the league should implement some kind of mandate? What do you think?
I think the NFL is going to play every game this season. I don't think what we saw last year, I don't think they probably postponing games is probably, if it's going to be maybe a postponing, like maybe it'll be like a Monday to like a Monday night, but I don't think the NFL is going to do what they did last year and really blow up the schedule because of COVID. And when the NFL wants to do something, they do it. And I think we saw that last year, when we saw the Broncos play without a quarterback, like they're going to do what they got to do to play the games. And teams that, if they're more apt to get an outbreak because they're not vaccinated, that's going to obviously put them at a disadvantage. And that's something that I think the teams at the top and the teams that are winning are going to, be in the playoffs trying to win a Super Bowl. I think that you want to do anything in your best, interest to get to that point. And, I think this was also something last season about staying healthy and doing all that stuff and following the protocols, because I think that when you only have one chance to win a title, you're in a 2-year window, like everything counts. And, by just following the Saints over the last few years, it's so hard to win a championship that you don't want to make something off the field that issue. So I think that's what that's going to be the big of the NFL. Like if you're not going to, hit that, the vaccines and you're at more risk to get a breakout, I think that the NFL is really not going to care at this point, which is something that, look, they're going to do what they got to do. And that's what, as I said, that's what the NFL does. And I think for teams that want to go in and win a championship, they obviously have to, put this into importance.
Yeah, I would say, in terms of the vaccination rate, I mean, even putting the fact aside that, people should get vaccinated just because it's best for their own health and best for the health of the community, taking aside the fact they're football players, they should just get vaccinated because it's the right thing to do and it's the right thing for themselves. But looking at it from a football point of view, I mean, if you're a team that's committed to winning and you want to put a winning team on the field, if you're a team that's a contender that you think you have a shot at a title, why are you going to run that risk of, oh no, like exactly. My guy has COVID, he's going to be on the COVID IL, now we're down a man, our quarterbacks in the IL, our starting corners, plus, I mean, if you remember from last year, I'm thinking about the Denver situation that happened with the quarterback because, obviously, the vaccine wasn't out by that point. So all of the Denver quarterbacks had to go into quarantine because they had all been in that room together, all in the QB room together, studying film. So you had to put a practice squad wide receiver who had played quarterback in college out there. It was a complete mess. I mean, if you're a team with low vaccination rates and you have a bunch of your quarterbacks who aren't vaccinated in a room, guess what? The game's not going to be canceled and they're going to be gone. And you're going to be, that's a game you can throw out. So I don't understand why, even from a just like moral and health point of view, if you're a team that wants to win, why wouldn't you tell your players to get vaccinated? Now I understand, legally they can't force someone to get vaccinated. I mean, I don't think legally they can. Maybe as a business they can. Obviously the PA, they have the rules too. I know all the sports, associations, players associations are, fighting back on mandatory vaccinations as a player's right issue. That's a whole other can of worms. But the simple point of the matter, point of fact is that, I'm even thinking about the Jets and Giants over here. Like you got the Jets, rookie quarterback, new organization, bunch of young players. You're trying to build chemistry. I mean, what's going to happen if there's a COVID outbreak and these guys who are trying to learn how to play with each other can't get together? And I mean, I've also, I was reading a little bit more about some stuff. Remember last year, and I don't know, I'm not in NFL, headquarters. I don't, training facilities. I don't know if this is being enforced, but, there was rules like if players weren't allowed to have lunch with each other. They had to sit at their own separate tables. And, there was very regimented. The players really couldn't interact with their own teammates. And I was reading that the NFL said, if you're vaccinated, it's back to normal. Basically, you can, hang out with your friends on the team, whatever. But if you're not vaccinated, you're sitting by yourself at lunch. So all those rigid protocols are still in place. So from a team chemistry point of view, from a winning point of view, it makes, and obviously from a health point of view, it just makes so much sense to get vaccinated. I don't understand why teams and players are being so hesitant.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like fans aren't going to realize the impact of this until, their favorite player sideline or their fantasy star isn't playing that week. And, maybe like it seems like a no-brainer, but there's a lot of teams that need to reach that threshold, and it's been available for a while. So I hope that we can have a smooth NFL season. It was a pain last year. No one wants to see what happened to the Bears happen again, or the situation with the quarterbacks.
Broncos.
It was the Broncos.
It was against the Saints. I guess I'll take the free win, but
anyone besides Andrew, no one wants to see that besides Andrew. So, I just want to see a normal season. I think everyone wants to see a normal.
I think the NFL wants to see a normal season. I don't think they're I think they want to see fans in the seats. You could bring it up on a financial point too, that they want to put that the revenue back up so the cap goes up. I know a lot of teams have been feeling the brunt of that, and if you can obviously if you can get past the pandemic as quickly as possible, the NFL is going to want to happen, and when the NFL wants something to happen, they do it, and that's what I think they're going to do in this situation, and they're not going to. Maybe a Broncos situation would happen again, and I don't think the NFL is really going to care.
Yeah, I would say also, we're being reminded with baseball right now that, I think a lot of us are feeling like, hey, we're vaccinated, we're getting back to normal, but we have to just take a step back and remember that, the virus is still out there. And, it's been great, to be vaccinated and to kind of get more of a normal life back. But, look at a team like the Phillies. They remind us that COVID is still affecting teams. I know the Yankees locally, but the Yankees are in a weird spot where a lot of players were vaccinated, but are still testing positive. So I want to put them aside for a second, but looking at the Phillies, they're one of those few teams in baseball that still has a below that threshold vaccination rate. And they've been kind of decimated by COVID stuff, having guys go on the COVID IL and all that. So, and the Phillies are on a playoff, well, not playoff push because we're still at the halfway point, but they're right there for the NL East. And, if you want to try to win the division title, you're going to need your guys. So again, it's just reiterating that point of putting the health stuff aside. If you want to put a winning product on the field and you want to ensure that your, best players are out there, get vaccinated. And I know with the Yankees, obviously, they've been very unlucky in the fact that they've had vaccinations and players have still tested positive for COVID. But that being said, just hear from Phil Nevins, what happened with him. He got COVID, but he was vaccinated, and his doctors told him that had it not been for the vaccine, that the virus would have spread to his lungs and it could have been a lot worse. So even if these players get COVID despite being vaccinated, maybe that turnaround time for being sick is quicker. They're healthier. All the Yankee players I would know have no symptoms apparently. So, at the end of the day, players, everyone, I think it's best to get vaccinated personally.